heated confrontation after a second-round match at the U.S. Open here in New York. After Yelena Ostapenko lost to Taylor Townsend, the two exchanging sharp words. ABC's Matt Rivers has more.
It was the U.S. Open play that sparked a tense showdown. American Taylor Townsend clipping the top of the net, then going on to clinch a win against Yelena Ostapenko of Latvia. Ostapenko telling Townsend to apologize for skimming the net, a lucky break which, according to tennis etiquette, usually prompts a wave or gesture of apology. Later, Townsend was asked if she thought there were racial undertones in Ostapenko's comments.
Rachel, Ostapenko says she's been accused of racism, responding on social media saying in part, "I was never racist in my life and I respect all nations of people in the world. For me, it doesn't matter where you come from." Rachel?
All right, Matt Rivers for us. Thank you.
What happens when centuries-old tennis etiquette collides with modern-day coded racism at the world's biggest tennis tournament? Well, we're about to find out because this story has everything. A Southside Chicago champion, an unwritten rule that isn't actually a rule, and words so loaded they sent shockwaves through the entire tennis world. But here's what's absolutely wild. When we get to the shocking response from tennis legends, it will completely reframe everything you think you know about this confrontation. And later, what Venus Williams revealed afterward is going to leave you questioning every polite exchange you've ever witnessed in sports. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for the final twist that makes this about so much more than tennis. It's absolutely unhinged and changes everything. Before we dive into this absolute chaos, smash that subscribe button if you love messy drama breakdowns, hit the like button, and definitely hit that new hype button. It's YouTube's latest way to support creators, and it helps our channel reach more tea lovers like you. Now back to the tea. Picture this. It's August 27th, 2025 at the US Open. The energy is electric, the stakes are high, and we're about to witness what becomes one of the most talked about post-match confrontations in recent tennis history. Taylor Townsend, the world's #1 doubles player, just dismantled Yelena Ostapenko 7-5, 6-1 in straight sets. Now, if you know anything about Ostapenko, you know she's not exactly known for gracious losses. But what happens next? It's so beyond anything you'd expect that multiple tennis legends had to weigh in just to process it. But here's what makes this absolutely fascinating, and what we'll dive deep into next. The entire confrontation started over something that isn't even technically a rule, an unwritten expectation that allegedly everyone follows. Except apparently, they don't. And the way Ostapenko chose to handle this perceived slight, let's just say it revealed way more about her than it did about Taylor. What you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about polite sports culture. Because sometimes politeness is just privilege wearing a tennis skirt. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been in a situation where someone questioned your intelligence or credentials? Let me know how you would have handled what's coming next. Before we get to the absolute chaos that ensued, let's talk about who we're dealing with here, because the contrast couldn't be more stark if we tried. Taylor Townsend is basically the embodiment of the American dream with a tennis racket. At just 15 years old, the USTA told her she was too heavy to represent American tennis and refused to fund her trip to the US Open Juniors. The resilience that took? We're talking about a teenager who was told she wasn't good enough by the people who were supposed to support her, yet she persisted. Fast forward to 2025, and Taylor is the first mother in tennis history to reach world #1 in any discipline. She's won Wimbledon, the Australian Open, and she did it all while raising her 4-year-old son, Aiden.
I think since having him, I've had something that was bigger than tennis. I've been playing since I was 4. I turned pro at 15. Like, this has been my livelihood, and this is how I've provided for myself. And so there was nothing else that was more important than this.
Of course.
And for me, not only in the moment, but later down the road, and to try and set myself up for a better life. And when he came into my life, then it was something that I loved more than the game.
This woman literally rewrote what's possible in professional tennis. But the person who decided to question her intelligence in class? Well, that's where things get interesting. Yelena Ostapenko has what we might generously call a volatile reputation. Not for her tennis, though she did win the French Open in 2017. No, Ostapenko is notorious for her meltdowns, her confrontations, and her inability to handle pressure gracefully. As Naomi Osaka so diplomatically put it after this incident,
if you're like genuinely asking me about the history of Ostapenko, I don't think that's the craziest thing she said. I'm gonna be honest.
Even world #1 Arina Sabalenka has admitted that Ostapenko just sometimes can lose control.
I actually spoke to Alona after the match, but I have to say that she's nice, you know? She just sometimes can lose control, and she has some things in life to face and some struggles. So I was just trying to help her to face it more in mature way, but I was just trying to help her to like settle down and kind of like someone she could speak to and just let it go, you know. I think she just sometimes can just lose control over her emotions, which pretty tough, and I really hope that one day she will figure it herself and she will handle it much better.
When your fellow players are basically suggesting you need therapy on the record, that's telling. And here's what's about to make your blood boil when we get to the actual confrontation. Ostapenko chose to unleash this particular tantrum on probably the most accomplished, gracious, and professionally respected player she could have picked. The irony is going to be absolutely unhinged, because the entire confrontation allegedly started over something that sounds important but actually isn't at all. Let me introduce you to tennis's most ridiculous unwritten rule, the net cord apology. Picture this: you hit a shot, it clips the top of the net, changes trajectory, and somehow still lands in for a winner. According to tennis tradition, you're supposed to raise your hand and mumble a quick "sorry" to acknowledge that luck helped you win the point. Sounds reasonable, right? Except here's the tea. This rule appears literally nowhere in the official tennis rulebook. The USTA doesn't recognize it. It's not enforceable. It's just something players do because someone decided they should a long time ago. And you know what's particularly rich about this whole expectation? There's actually footage of tennis legends throughout history completely ignoring this so-called tradition. This year at Wimbledon, Aryna Sabalenka got visibly upset when Amanda Anisimova didn't apologize for a net cord, calling her disrespectful. But here's the thing, Anisimova was just playing tennis, following the actual rules instead of some made-up etiquette that serves absolutely no purpose. So when Ostapenko decided to unleash a verbal assault on Taylor for not following this imaginary rule, she was essentially having a meltdown over tennis superstition. But what she said, the words she chose, that's where this goes from ridiculous to absolutely unacceptable. The revelation coming up about how this etiquette has been weaponized, you're going to be furious. What do you think? Should players have to apologize for lucky shots? Drop your thoughts below because this debate is just getting started. Alright, here's where this story goes completely off the rails. The match ends. Taylor has just dominated Ostapenko in straight sets on one of tennis's biggest stages. They approach the net for the customary handshake. You know, that moment of sportsmanship that actually matters. And instead of congratulating Taylor or even just shaking hands and moving on, Ostapenko decides to make this about a fudging net cord from earlier in the match. But it's not just that she brought it up, it's how she brought it up. According to Taylor herself and multiple witnesses, Ostapenko looked Taylor dead in the eye and told her she had no class and no education. Not once, not twice, 3 times, while wagging her finger like she was scolding a child. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. Jelena Ostapenko, who just got comprehensively outplayed on court, decided to question the intelligence and refinement of Taylor Townsend, a woman who has conducted herself with more grace in this one moment than Ostapenko has shown in her entire career. Being so pressed about not adhering to etiquette standards by ironically saying the least polite thing you can to someone? Mind-boggling. The lip reader caught even more of this unhinged rant.
Good match. That is too much. You need to learn how to take the L. No, I don't have to do anything. When we play on this court in the US, that is how we play, okay? We will see how well you are with little education or class. And you are the worst disrespectful player. When they said, and you have no education. You have no education. You have no education. Seriously. Take an L instead of faking like you have it. That's straight. That's okay. You can say whatever you want to say, but you need to learn how to take a loss better. Thank you so much. Great job. Great play.
The audacity is actually breathtaking. We're talking about a woman who apparently thinks not apologizing for a ball hitting a piece of tape is grounds for questioning someone's intelligence and upbringing. But here's what makes this even more devastating. In the tennis world in America, calling a black woman unintelligent isn't just an insult. It's coded language with centuries of racist history behind it. And Taylor? She handled it with the kind of class that Ostapenko clearly wouldn't recognize if it hit her in the face with a tennis racket. She told Ostapenko she could learn how to take a loss better and walked away to acknowledge the crowd that was supporting her. But here's what's absolutely wild and what we're about to dive into next. This confrontation was caught on camera, witnessed by thousands, and the reaction from the tennis community was immediate and devastating for Ostapenko. The support Taylor received afterward, it's going to restore your faith in humanity. Now we need to have a real conversation about why Ostapenko's choice of words was so particularly devastating. Because if you think this was just garden variety poor sportsmanship, you're missing the deeper layers of what just happened. When Ostapenko repeatedly called Taylor unintelligent and lacking class, she wasn't just being rude. She was tapping into one of the most persistent and harmful stereotypes used against Black Americans for literally centuries. The idea that Black people are inherently less smart, less refined, less sophisticated, it's been used to justify everything from segregation to modern-day discrimination. Here's what makes this even more infuriating. Taylor Townsend is the absolute opposite of every stereotype Ostapenko was invoking. This is a woman whose family dedicated their lives to academic excellence, who overcame USTA discrimination as a teenager, and who has been articulate, professional, and gracious throughout her entire career. Naomi Osaka immediately understood the assignment when she heard about this. She didn't mince words.
Obviously, it's one of the worst things that you can say to a Black tennis player in a majority white sport.
Osaka knows exactly what she's talking about. She's been the target of similar language throughout her career. Taylor herself acknowledged the weight of those words.
That has been a stigma in our community of, being non-educated and all the things when it's the furthest thing from the truth. And the thing that I'm the most proud of is that I let my racket talk, because ultimately I'm the one here sitting in front of you guys, moving on to the next round, getting the next check, being able to still be here and speak to you guys. And that's what the most important. She's packed up and she's gone. I'm here.
Understood that whether Ostapenko intended it or not, she was weaponizing racial stereotypes in a moment of frustration. But here's what's particularly insidious about this whole situation. Ostapenko later tried to walk it back by claiming language barriers and saying she was only talking about tennis etiquette. Convenient excuse, except tennis etiquette doesn't typically involve repeatedly attacking someone's intellect and sophistication. That's just called being a terrible person. The beauty of Taylor's response, though, she let her actions speak louder than Ostapenko's words. She advanced to the next round while Ostapenko packed her bags. She got the support of the tennis community while Ostapenko faced widespread backlash. She proved that the best response to ignorance is excellence. But the upcoming revelation about how this fits into tennis culture as a whole, that's going to open your eyes to problems that go way beyond this one incident. The response to Ostapenko's outburst was swift, unanimous, and absolutely devastating. It's like the entire tennis community collectively said absolutely not, and proceeded to drag her through the press for days. Naomi Osaka led the charge with surgical precision.
I know Taylor and I know how hard she's worked and I know how smart she is, so she's the furthest thing from uneducated or anything like that.
But then she delivered the killing blow. I don't think that's the craziest thing she's said. I'm going to be honest. I think it's ill timing and the worst person you could have ever said it to. Imagine having your fellow professionals essentially say, "Yeah, this tracks for you, but you really picked the wrong target this time." The secondhand embarrassment is overwhelming. Coco Gauff, who's never been one to shy away from important conversations, called it out while trying to be diplomatic.
Same thing with the let court, even though it's something that some people do, but she had a winner afterwards, and it's not it's not against the rules either. But yeah, I mean, I know what was said after the match. I think that's not, I think it was a heat of the moment thing, and I think Yelena was probably feeling emotions after she lost. I do think that shouldn't have been said, regardless of how you're feeling, especially given those were the reasons that she stated. And knowing Taylor personally, she's the opposite of that. She's one of the nicest people that I ever met. And whenever I've had a tough moment on court, she's texting me, making sure, checking in on how I am. So yeah, I really hate to see that. Maybe this is some of the first people hearing who Taylor Townsend is, and I don't want that to be the main focus of who she is, because she's a lot more than that. She's a mom, she's a great friend, she's a talented tennis player, and a good person. So I think at the end of this tournament, I hope that people will do a deep dive into her and get to know her more than what was said in the previous match.
Even when trying to give Ostapenko the benefit of the doubt about heat of the moment emotions, Gauff made it clear the words were inexcusable. But the bombshell coming next about what this incident reveals about tennis culture as a whole, that's where this story becomes about so much more than just two players. Here's where this story reveals something much darker about tennis culture: how politeness and etiquette can be weaponized to maintain power structures that were never designed to be fair in the first place. Think about it. Tennis has always marketed itself as the gentleman's game, with unwritten rules about behavior that allegedly separate it from other sports. But here's the thing about unwritten rules. They give people plausible deniability when they want to exclude or diminish others. The net court apology is a perfect example. It's not actually a rule, but it's treated like one. And when someone doesn't follow it, suddenly they're disrespectful or lacking in class. It becomes a way to police behavior based on arbitrary standards that can be selectively enforced. But let's be real about who typically gets policed for these infractions. When Amanda Anisimova didn't apologize for a net cord at Wimbledon, Sabalenka was annoyed but handled it during the match. But when Taylor Townsend, a black woman, didn't follow this made-up rule, she got called unintelligent and told she had no class in front of thousands of people. The escalation is telling. This is how coded language works in spaces that pride themselves on being civilized. You can't say what you really think, so you attack someone's intellect, their refinement, their worthiness to be in the space. You make it about their behavior rather than admitting your own biases. Tennis, for all its talk about tradition and etiquette, has a long history of making black players prove their worthiness in ways that white players never have to. Serena Williams faced decades of criticism about her behavior that her white counterparts never experienced. Naomi Osaka was penalized for expressing frustration in ways that were considered normal for other players. What happened to Taylor isn't just tennis drama. It's how black excellence gets undermined in predominantly white spaces. She represents everything tennis says it wants. Skilled, professional, a role model for young athletes, and literally rewriting what's possible for working mothers. Instead of celebration, she faces discrimination and disrespect. The beautiful thing about Taylor's response? She refused to play that game. She didn't try to prove her intelligence or class to someone who was never going to acknowledge it anyway. She just kept being excellent and let the tennis community rally around her. The upcoming revelation about how this all gets resolved is going to be absolutely perfect in its poetic justice. While Ostapenko was busy making headlines for all the wrong reasons and eventually slinking out of the tournament early, Taylor Townsend was busy proving exactly why she's one of tennis's most formidable competitors. She didn't just advance to the next round, she demolished world number 5 Mira Andreeva 7-5, 6-2, earning herself a spot in the 4th round and a night session match at Arthur Ashe Stadium. The message couldn't have been clearer. While one player was focused on manufactured drama and coded insults, the other was focused on winning tennis matches at the sport's highest level. Meanwhile, Ostapenko found herself in full damage control mode. After losing her doubles match the next day, she skipped the mandatory press conference, citing medical reasons. Then came the non-apology apology on social media, claiming language barriers and saying she was only talking about tennis etiquette, an explanation that fooled absolutely no one who watched the footage. The contrast in how these two women handled adversity tells you everything you need to know about their respective characters. One faced discrimination and responded with excellence. The other faced a loss and responded with ugly personal attacks. And here's the beautiful final twist that completely demolishes the premise of this entire controversy. Venus Williams later revealed that she's basically ignored the net court apology tradition for her entire legendary career, apologizing for one exactly once in decades of professional tennis. 7 Grand Slam singles titles, and Venus has been politely ignoring this ridiculous expectation all along. The message from tennis royalty was clear. This whole controversy was built on nothing, and everyone with any sense knew it. Taylor Townsend walked away from this incident with her reputation enhanced, her character proven, and her tennis game speaking louder than any insult ever could.
The person that I am and how I want to show up in the world, it was tested, but then it was also displayed. And just off the court, I mean, it was just a ton more opportunities that have come in. I think there are a lot of people who have experienced me and who I am as a player and as a person for the first time. They're like, whoa, this is amazing, it's so cool. And so lots of opportunities, lots of decisions to make, but this is what I've been dreaming for.
I like to hear that you have decisions to make.
She showed the world what true class looks like under pressure, and why she deserves every bit of success she's earned. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well, winning tennis matches, and letting your excellence speak for itself. What do you think? Is this how all sports controversies should end? Let me know in the comments, because Taylor Townsend just gave us a masterclass in handling adversity with grace. Drop your final thoughts below on this wild story, and don't forget to subscribe for more drama breakdowns that'll keep you glued to your screen. The tea never stops flowing in the world, and we're here for every single drop.